Yo, welcome back to another Roblox Studio tutorial. Today we are going to be looking at how we can make a customizable title system in Roblox Studio. And this tutorial is going to cover a brief guide to how to make chat tags, and we are also going to be expanding on that to make it fully interactable and customizable for a client or user to choose what title they want to use. So let's get into it. So firstly, if you don't know how to make chat tags, then this is the good video for you to watch if you want to find out how. Let's begin. So to make chat tags, you need to go to Starter GUI, click the plus and choose local script. You can rename the script to chat tags or titles as for this tutorial. So what do we want to start off with? We want to start off with local text chat service equals game get service text chat service. Then we need to call the text chat service, and then on incoming message net on incoming message equals function message text chat message. Then we need to get the properties. Local properties equals instance dot new text chat message properties. Then if message dot text source, then local player equals game get service players colon get player by user ID message dot text source dot user ID, and then if player dot name, or to be safer, user ID equals 0. Now this is going to be fully customizable, but I'm going to change the info later. Properties dot prefix text equals font. Now what we want to do is we want to actually create a variable up here. Local chosen title equals this, and local chosen hex equals this. And what we can do is we can do this. Font color equals, and then what we need to do here is we need to choose chosen hex. Then we can close that, and then we can now do chosen title. Then we need to close that bracket and then close the font. That is how you do it here. We're using chosen hex and chosen title, making it customizable. Otherwise, you would put in the specific user ID you want, and the specific chosen hex and chosen title that you want, if you want it to be specific, and the same for every user. Now what we need is, you can also do else if, and then do the same thing for someone else if you want it for someone else as well. But we're going to be doing this for everyone, so we're just going to do it like this. So player.userid equals player. So what we can just do is if player, then like this, because it means that we're going to be doing it for the player. So properties.prefix text equals font color, and then chosen hex is the color that we're using, chosen title is the title we're using, and that is how you do it. So now we want a space there, and then finish it off message.prefix text. We can't forget that, because otherwise it won't work. So now what we need to do is, after this end, we need to return the properties of the chat tags. Now, how do we make this customizable? What we can try is we can do this, the absolute greatest. But you can set this to anything. Now I can set this to this, which is red. Now FF, Now, what you guys need to know about hex colours is there are 6 digits in here, or letters because it's hex. Then these 6 digits are split into 3 sections, each being 2 in length. We have FF here being red. This is the highest it can be. FF is the same as 255 in binary, and binary means red. Well, binary doesn't mean red. 255 in binary means red, and this here, so FF here means red. This means nothing at all, so that can be set to 0. But if you set that to F as well, that means it would be a mixture of red and green. So if everything was red, it would be a mixture of all 3 colours, RGB. That is all you have to know, because it goes from 0 and 00 to FF, being 255 in binary, and that's the highest it can be. So what we can do here is we can test this out just to make sure it is working with our chat tag script being changed up a little bit. So I can say hello in the chat. And it says the absolute greatest secondary gaming on YT. Now, everyone will have that title. That's good. Now we can actually make the system that will customize this. So what we need to do is we need to go into the starter GUI and we need to choose screen GUI. Titles, adjustment. You can change this to wherever you want, and we can turn on ignore GUI inset to make it accurate, and reset on spawn off. So we can choose the image button and we can put it slightly smaller, maybe 50, and we can put it there. We can add corner, UI corner, not color correction, we want something else. We want UI corner. Very nice, now that's rounded. Now we can go into the toolbox and we can go into decals and we can choose title icon. So anything in here you guys can use. So now I can do, let's say this, copy asset ID. You guys can set this to whatever you want. Then I can bring it into image, and it will set it. Nice. So I can set remove the background, or I can set it to be dark, and that just has to be 0. Like that. So you can also stroke it to be white, perhaps. Like that. So that's the titles button that we are going to go with. Looks a bit strange, but you guys can customize this however you wish. So that's the button that we've got. So we can name this to button. Now we can also put in a frame here so that we can actually use the UI interface. So let's set this to about 300 and we can customize this further if we need to. Let's bring this down and let's put it about there. I would say that probably has to be a bit wider. So let's bring it about there. That's fine. So what we can do now is we can add another UI corner. Then we can add a stroke of 5. Maybe 3. 3 is a bit better. Maybe 4. Yeah, 4 is fine. And then UI corner we can set to 5, 0. But that's a bit excessive. 1, 0. 0.1, 0. That's fine. So now that we've got it looking like this, we can do text label and we can make this look nice. So what we need is text scaled, we need bold, and then the font I am going to go for is Chroma. I'm a bit of a fan of that. So now we can come up here and we can do titles. Not bad. So now we can do everything that we need to do down here for actually choosing our title. So we can do a scroll frame from here. We can expand it, bring it down, and then here. Now we need to adjust this because this scroll wheel is very wide. We can set the scroll bar thickness to 8 or something. That will make it thinner. That's good. So now we can add a stroke around this of 3, and then your right corner. That's fine. That's good. So now inside of the scrolling frame we can make this titles frame. Now we need to do a frame. Then let's make it black. This is just for a reference, by the way. So if I delete one of them, going to be right there. Now we need to do a UI list layout. So if we duplicate this, now it's going to be down there. And I can't move this around because it's locked. So now what we can do on the UI list layout is we can do padding 0.1, that's quite far, 0.01, yeah, that's probably 0.005, and then the padding on the other side, UI padding, then we can do on the top 0.1, no, 0.01, then on the left 0.01, 0.05, 0.03, that's good, then 0.09, 0.8, that's good, that's fine, and then padding right can be 0.03 to be the same, and 0.8, nice. Then what we can do here is we can duplicate this and see that this is working very, very nicely. Now we can customize the first one, 0.8. Let's customize the first one. So I need to widen this to be about that wide. I'm trying to think, do I even want it like this? So we need it to be like this. Then we need it to be about that size. That should be good. And then we can do background transparency like that. And then a stroke. Maybe we can make this thinner. 30. Then inside of this, we can name this template. Then we can do text label. Background transparency can be 1. We can make this slightly smaller, although it doesn't really matter. But you guys can customize this to however you wish. Then we can text scaled. Then we can change this to microma again. Well, actually, that's just for the title. I would say Nonito from here. Maybe bold. Title can be in brackets, or we can just do it like this. Yeah. The greatest here. And then we can change this to be left because we can't really snap this. That's good. That should be good. And then over here we can have the button, template, text button, use. Then we can set the font to Nonito, maybe text scaled, bold. Then we can set the background color to that. And then we can bring this over here. And we can add a frame in here to be the exact same thing. Text button can go inside there. Position 0, size 1. Now the frame can have a stroke 2. Now we can clearly see it's off center, so if I move this for now, I can bring this down, I can select both of them, and then I can center this to be more center. Very nice. And then I can do that. Nice. So now that there is how you would do the title system. You can do this and button, template. Now we can duplicate template and use multiple. But I do want a bit more padding. Let's duplicate this and padding on the top 0.1. No, that's not it. So you are this layout. Yeah, that's probably better. So now we can duplicate that, and very nice, that's a lot of titles. So we can delete all of these. So that's the greatest up there. And the greatest title, what we can do here is inside of this template, we can use a string value title, and we can set the value the greatest, and then we can set this to color, and we can set this to be that, and then we can do this one here, and what we need to do here is, well, we don't need to, but we can set the hex there, and then now it's going to display what it will be using. And then now what we can do is we can duplicate that and adjust the padding on this layout 0.08, and that's probably nicer, more compact. Now we can change this. Now we can use a different title, and Overlord. Now Overlord would probably be better to be cyan, maybe coffee. I remember that as coffee for some reason, but there's a way to remember it. And then color can be that, and then title can be Overlord. Now we need to script this. So button here, local script, script.parent.mousebutton one-click net function, and then script.parent.parent.frame. And so script.parent.parent.frame, yeah, that's fine, dot visible equals not script.parent.parent.frame.visible. Now we can test this out and just check that it works. Very nice. And my chat tag, the absolute greatest, still like that. That's good. So now what we want to do is script this. So inside of title frame, local script, we need to do for underscore comma I in titles in script.parent can get children do. If I dot name equals template, then now that will check if it is the template. Because otherwise it's UI padding, UI stroke, UI list layout, UI corner, all the other useless stuff that we don't want to be checking. Then what we can do is we can do inside the template I dot button dot. Now it's called a text button, so it might be different for you if you choose to rename it. So I dot button text button dot mouse button one click connect function. Then after that we need to do I dot title. Then we need to, and for that we can store them as local t equals dot title dot value, and local c equals I dot color dot value. And then we can go to replicated storage, and we can choose remote event, set title game.replicatorStorage.setTitle file server, and then we need to do ctc. That's good. So we can test this, but we can't test it yet because currently we're going from a local script into a local script. So what we need to do is we need to reverse it back. So inside of the server script service, game.replicatorStorage.setTitle.onServer event net function player tc game.replicatorStorage.setTitle file client, and then we need to do player tc, and that's going to reverse it back. So currently inside of titles we have this game.replicatorStorage.setTitle.onClient event net function tc, and now what we need to do is we need to set these values down here. So we can copy this, delete it, and then put it down here instead. Now we can do chosen title equals T, chosen hex equals C, and that is going to change it, and that hopefully does work, because logically that is how it would work. So currently my title is absolute greatest. I can set it to the greatest. It still says the absolute greatest, but if we change this, it still says the absolute greatest. Interesting. So what we can do to avoid this problem is we can keep this open. I'm going to put this on my other screen so that I know what I've done here. And I'm going to go into each template individually. So the first template is the one for the greatest, so we can do local script, and we can do script.parent.button.textButton mouse button one click net function, and then what we need to do is script.parent.title local t equals and local c equals script.parent.color.value. And now we can do the game.replicatorStorage thing, and we can paste it back in. So that's basically what we've done in there, but in here. So now we can delete local script up here, and now we can see the greatest being changed to, hopefully. Then I can just say E, there we go, change the absolute greatest. Useful, isn't it? So guys, I've just done a change that should have fixed it. So what I've done is I've moved the check from down here to outside, and I've stopped the thing from setting it every single time. It kept replacing it every single time a message was sent. So that was the problem. So now if I say E, the absolute greatest, use the greatest. Now use this does not work yet. So currently I have to go into local script, I have to copy and I have to paste it into here as well. So this one is the exact same. So now what we can do is we can say E, the absolute greatest, use the greatest, use overlord. Now this is how you can make a title system. If you wanted to change the overlord to something else to make it look false or something, so title false, I don't know, but you can set this to whatever, and then E, use false. So you can set this to wherever you want, and that is very nice. Overlord. Now what we can also do is in local script, we can make this actually display accurately every time. script.parent.textLabel.text equals, and we can set this to be script.parent.title.value and script.parent.textLabel.text color3 equals script.parent.color.value, and color3.fromHex, and hopefully it displays like that. Nice. So the greatest. But we can also force it to be put in brackets. So we can go up here, string.format, like this, or instead of string.format, you can do this if you want to be more simple. And now copy this, come into the other one, put that at the top as well. Very nice. Now it says the greatest, and it also says overlord. I can choose overlord and it will change it to that. Very, very nice. And that is how you can make a title system in Roblox Studio. If you wanted to, you could duplicate this, and then you can set title to be, let's say, subscribe, and I can set the color to be, let's say, that, being green. Then inside it will say subscribe as green because we did the customization to the script. Subscribe. There we go. And that is exactly what you do. What you should do if you enjoyed this video, then leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next Roblox Studio video. Peace out.